Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Captain America, all well-known superheroes in the world of comic books. In 2015, comic book sales in North America topped out at $579 million, and each year, comic book conventions are held all over the world. Hundreds of thousands of comic book fanatics flock to them and dress as their favorite character. Many of the most popular movies like The Dark Knight and The Avengers revolve around comic book series. Many of these characters were developed by the two most influential comic book publishers in America, Detective Comics known as DC and Marvel Comics. They have been in competition with each other since the 1930s, when comic book readers encountered DC's Superman and Batman, the first comic book superheroes, and Marvel's Captain America. However, over the years, Marvel Comics redefined the modern superhero by exploring new boundaries and expanding original ideas to create characters that not only reflect the times, but are also easy to relate to. Whether it's a team of heroes that represent society or a witty hero that represents an individual, Marvel Industries continues to grow as it polishes forms of entertainment that connect superheroes to the modern audience. Prior to the creation of comic books, newspaper comic strips of the late 19th century grabbed the attention of American readers. Richard Felton Olcott's The Yellow Kid, which debuted in the New York World in February 1895, is considered to be the first real comic strip. It featured a young boy who pointed out issues of urban life in a comedic way. Olcott's use of wordy captions and word balloons set the format for today's comic book. Another popular comic strip at the time was Rudolph Dirk's Katzenjammer Kids, which was published on December 12, 1897 for the first time in the Sunday supplement of the New York Journal. This comic strip featured two boys who pulled pranks for the reader's amusement. Comic strips like these influenced the creation of others, which were bundled into books called Funnies, Famous Funnies, or Funnies on Parade. Because of the popularity of these collections, the modern-day comic book was born. The popularity of comic books influenced young artists to join the comic book industry. They sought to convert the abundance of comic strips into storylines revolving around one character. In 1938, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster of DC Comics created the first superhero, Superman, a displaced alien from a different world who possessed powers that made him faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Superman became an iconic figure in America because he represented hope during the Great Depression. Superman sold 200,000 copies for its first edition, but another comic book company, inspired by the amount of sales, looked to be a fierce competitor to DC. Martin Goodman created Marvel Comics under the name of Timely Comics in 1939, but it wasn't a competitor of DC until 1941, when writers Jack Kirby and Joe Simon created one of the most patriotic heroes of all time, Captain America. Steve Rogers was a regular scrawny private who was at first too weak to enlist in the army, but an injection of a superhuman formula turned him into the bold Captain America. As America wanted a hero during World War II, the red, white, and blue costume Captain America represented liberty and American nationalism. Captain America's first issue set a violent tone as the hero was shown throwing a right cross to Hitler. He also was a way for kids to connect with their fathers serving overseas, and inspired soldiers to keep fighting as he defeated the common enemy. Both Captain America and Superman vied for readers, and each comic book series sold over 1 million editions in a month during World War II. This hero reflected society's issues and related to the common person, which was a concept that would become Marvel's signature. Stan Lee and other Marvel writers explored characters to generate the philosophy they are known for today. By the 1950s, Timely was renamed Marvel, and Stan Lee was asked to produce a team of superheroes that would be a competitor to DC's Justice League. He teamed up with Jack Kirby in 1961, and they debuted the Fantastic Four. 4 characters bombarded by cosmic rays form a team of superheroes, but not all of them view their powers as a gift.
The Thing hated being the Thing, and the idea of superheroes hating being a superhero was really a novelty, and it produced a lot of psychological richness, at least comparatively speaking, that had not been seen in comic books before.
The Fantastic Four signified the connection between hero and a normal being, as the heroes have real-life issues and feelings that the perfect superhero doesn't have. The Fantastic Four's establishment of reality became a connection for the readers and influenced them to read more. Marvel's success continued when it tackled an important social issue, civil rights. A majority of the comic books at the time featured an all-white class of superheroes and civilians. During the 1960s, the civil rights movement was in action as blacks in America were fighting for equality, and Stan Lee saw this historical event as an opportunity to explore different superheroes and even a whole team of heroes. Inspired by the issue, Lee created the first African-American comic book superhero, the Black Panther, in 1966. Lee and Jack Kirby also created the X-Men, a team of mutants born with genetic disorders, which gave them a range of unique powers. Because they were different from the normal human, they were hated by society, just as with differences in America were persecuted at the time.
The point that I was trying to make in the X-Men was that we shouldn't hate or fear people because they're different.
Many comic book readers found a relation to the X-Men, as this team of superheroes celebrated individuality and minorities in society, making Marvel Comics even more relatable to a bigger population. As the readership of Marvel Comics grew, Stan Lee exchanged with teenage readers a character who was more than just a sidekick to the superhero. In 1963, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko debuted The Amazing Spider-Man. A bite from a radioactive spider gave Peter Parker most of the attributes and abilities of a spider. This witty web-slinging hero took down criminals left and right, but it was not his abilities that made Spider-Man so important and popular. Rather, it was his alter ego.
There's a poignancy in that idea that you could have all these powers. With great power comes great responsibility, but you know what doesn't come with great power? A love life. He's subject to fits of rage and despair and uncontrollable longing. He's a real teenager. He's insecure, he's self-doubting.
What makes Spider-Man such an enduring character isn't Spider-Man, it's Peter Parker.
Young readers encountered the humanity and vulnerability of a hero that they didn't see in the godlike characters Superman and Batman, who possessed very few human qualities, and that sense of humanity proved to be Marvel's secret formula to success. Today, comic books are brought to life for audiences on the big screen all around the world due to reader demand and technological advancements. In the forefront, Marvel has produced and continues to produce successful movies which have generated just over $9 billion in revenue based on its characters. Marvel's success has come from its ability to set movies in real-life situations and address modern issues. The X-Men have always been about celebrating individuality. However, the modern films specifically explore the controversial topic of gay rights. The mutant's powers develop when they hit puberty, which occurs at approximately the same time a gay person often identifies one's sexual preference. The screenwriters purposely parallel the genetic disorder of the mutants to the coming out process for gay people.
To understand, we thought Bobby was going to a school for the gifted.
Bobby is gifted.
We know that. We just didn't realize
We
he was...
still love you, Bobby. It's just this mutant problem is a little
What mutant problem?
complicated.
Modern political issues are also explored in Captain America: Winter Soldier, through its depiction of the dangers of drone warfare and national security agencies' controversial surveillance. At the film's opening, S.H.I.E.L.D., portrayed as a Central Intelligence Agency, hides Project Insight, a program to detect terrorists with 3 megadrones from Captain America. The drones, which look like actual US drones, collect and read people's private information to predict their actions in the future.
These new long-range precision guns can eliminate 1,000 hostiles a minute. The satellites can read a terrorist's DNA before he steps outside his spider hole.
US drones are sent overseas to eliminate terrorist threats, but according to The Intercept, nearly 90% of people killed in the drone strikes were unintended targets. The hero questions this project, which he believes contradicts America's maxim of innocent until proven guilty, and also Americans' willingness to give up their privacy for security.
The 21st century is a digital book. Zola taught Hydra how to read it. Your bank records, medical histories, voting patterns, emails, phone calls, your damn SAT scores. Zola's algorithm evaluates people's past to predict their future.
According to the Pew Research Center, only 54% of Americans disapprove of the US government's collection of private information for anti-terrorism efforts. Marvel movies have capitalized on these modern political issues and as a result, attracted millions of moviegoers worldwide. Superman and Captain America were among the first comic book superheroes that the world encountered, but Marvel has changed the definition of a superhero to be more relatable to the comic book reader. This has been a trademark to their continuing success. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, and others at Marvel created characters such as the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Spider-Man, and these have been Marvel's key to success. As a result, other companies have explored ways to create characters similar to these. Marvel continues to be successful as it reinforces the human and superhuman and reflect real-life issues and the struggles of real people. Behind the costumes, actions, and superpowers of fictitious characters, audiences can encounter the deeper meaning of the world outside our window. With the planned releases of future superhero movies, it is clear that Marvel's influence will carry on into the future.